Welcome to episode 709 of Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, here along with my co-host, Jen, the Arcane Observer, and tonight we'll be talking about haunted libraries. I'm going to skip through the usual introduction, but I do want to say, I'm not going to say who or how much, but thank you to the person that made a donation to the podcast today. I really appreciate that. And it's going to help, and all donations help. They're never expected, but always appreciated. And especially on my birthday and everything, I really that was a nice surprise. So thank you all for that. And of course, if anyone does want to do that here and there, you can find all the links for that on every episode description. So I try to keep them right there and easy for everyone to find. But so with that done, I want to welcome Jen. Thank you for joining me on the show again.
Hello, how are you?
Good. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So I thought this would be fun to do, just for so everyone knows. Jen and I always talk about what we're gonna talk about, and she gave me the option to pick this week because of it being my birthday on the night I'm recording here. We're recording here, so I've always been a big fan of libraries, and I think I even went to a haunted library when I was a kid. And I thought I'd kind of start with that a little bit. I'm not going to say where it was exactly, just because it's a sort of it is a public place, and it's not a huge place, so I don't want them being overrun and then finding out I was the reason for that. But in October or whatever, so I used to go to this library with my mom when I was a kid, and it was a smaller library, and there was one main room. Really, the basement was all one big room where all the kids' stuff was at, and there was another room off to the side that was always dark, and that's where the elevator shaft and other storage was at. And I always got a weird feeling from that room, like there was someone there. And of course, when I was a kid, I didn't think about what that could be or if that could be, or I just knew I didn't like to be anywhere near that particular corner or that doorway into that corner of the library. It doesn't make sense because it wasn't just the elevator. I knew where that was on the ground floor and didn't have any weird feelings from it overall. But for some reason in that basement, I did have weird feelings, and I did feel like there was someone there that that I couldn't see, that was just hanging out watching. And that sort of what got me thinking about this idea of libraries being sort of possibly good places for other whether it's spirits or other beings, whoever they are, to stay and to I would imagine keep collecting knowledge and also be around people if that's what they want to do. And so yeah, that's the basis for tonight's show. I have a few articles here I can refer to, and I'll share those in the episode descriptions. But yeah, what do you think about libraries, Jen, and maybe your experiences as well?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if people if spirits like to go to the library still, if they enjoyed like the quiet sort of platitude of the library and the peaceful state that people might be in, as they're looking for books or they're reading. And so the environment might be appealing in a way to be around people in that state of mind and that sort of perceptive, passive mindset as they're looking for what they're looking for. And then the environment itself being so quiet. I mean, it's often a retreat for people. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a retreat for spirits or some other type of entities that like to go there. And then as far as like the dark corner in the elevator, that's really neat. I mean, just the aspect of that. A lot of times, it seems like some of these entities they tend to stay in areas like that, and you hear about and how kids are so perceptive to it. And I remember when I was little too, it wasn't just any dark place or dark corner. It wasn't just like that. It would be specific areas that would just have this sort of uncomfortable feeling where you run past it really quick so you don't have to for some weird reason. I remember doing that at my grandpa's house. But there was like these particular areas where it kind of just felt like there was something there. And then the sense of feeling like being sort of observed in some way from those areas is really, it's a strange sensation. And I think a lot of children have that, and a lot of adults have that. But at a library, it makes sense. But also, too, it could be just as any, especially some of these buildings, these libraries, the buildings themselves, could have been repurposed as a library. Who knows? But yeah.
Yeah, that's true. There's one actually there's one example of that in one of the articles that I found of a former theater being turned into a library for a while. Let me find that real quick. But yeah, I think and I think that's another thing too. Whenever you have buildings that have been multiple things, I think that can lead to activity there as well. But let me see here. So this library is the Saline County Library. Apparently, it's in Arkansas. It was in this. It was a converted theater, so a converted theater building, so known as the Old Palace Theater. And the article here, this is from. Well, I'll share the episode links or the links in the episode. OEDB.org. So it was a theater. Now that's a whole other topic of just so many theaters I've heard and read about over the years seem to also have weird things happen in them with paranormal and high strangeness and whatever else. But so it says here that once the library was put there, the librarians started noticing weird things happening. And I'm on the wrong section here. There we go. So the librarians there started noticing that they would hear random footsteps when there was no one there that they could see. They would also see paperback carousels moving by themselves, as well as books falling from the shelves. So I wonder about that too when it comes to things falling. You always hear about that being sort of someone trying to get attention, but I also wonder if in some cases if that can be someone without a physical body trying to grab a book, and it just doesn't, they don't have the mastery of it yet, or they don't have enough energy for that yet, and so the books end up falling. I wonder if that's the case, but also those carousels, they usually won't just move if there's a little draft or a breeze or whatever in a building, from what I've seen, as far as especially when they're holding actual books, paperback books. That's a lot of weight to be moved around just by a draft or whatever.
There was this. What? Oh, sorry. Were you still reading the article?
Oh, no, I'm good. Sorry, I was just going to say whatever you can. Yeah, I was going to go to you. So,
okay. So, several years ago, pretty much like right when I got out of high school, I worked and I lived at this. It was an event venue, so they had lots of bands came through. Music. It was all music, and so tons of bands would come through. And I lived upstairs there when I was probably about, I don't know, 21, and I lived there for probably, I don't know, a couple of years, and or a little over a year, I'd say, just in this little bitty apartment over it. And the place was so strange. There was like one night after everything had been closed down, everything had been shut down. There were these two big doors that opened up into the main area where the stage was and where the dance floor was and everything. And then the front half was like where the bars were, and there were two bars and a big pool room. And everybody who worked there reported the strangest things and just all kinds of sort of not direct haunting sort of scenarios, but typically it was stuff about like people coming into the bathroom that weren't there. Like you would be in the bathroom, hear somebody come in and then come out. This would be when it was closed, and there'd be nobody there. That was reported by the maintenance. And then there were accounts of, like, in one instance, I had to come back downstairs after close because something I forgot to get something or something like that. And the candles, there were these candle, I guess, wall-mounted candle ensconces sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they were lit. And I remember that and wondering, had we just forgot to put them out, but they were lit. And it was so weird because I would have definitely noticed that, like at leaving, at closing and everything. And they were all lit. There was 4 of them. And then that was really bizarre. And there were, in the apartment itself, people who came up into the apartment would report that they would hear somebody come up the staircase to the door. And even my dogs would sometimes bark at the door, like somebody was there, but open it and there's nobody there. Hear somebody run up the stairs and then open it and no one's there. Now, directly across from my apartment was this locked door. It was like a padlock door. If you opened that up, it opened up into what used to be like the building itself was in a downtown city center. And there was like an old hairdressing shop. There was a clothing store that was up there. And when you opened that door, it opened up to that part of the building. And it was completely just abandoned, but you still had the beauty chairs, the sinks, the clothing dressing room stalls, the mirrors and everything. And then just the open floor up there. And it was all dirty and like completely abandoned, basically. And we used to go up there all the time and walk around through it and go up onto the roof, like all my friends and myself, because you could get up onto the roof that way. And then, it was really cool. Well, after I moved away and wasn't working there anymore, they turned that building into a library. So it's really, yeah. So it's really, it used to be like this huge hotspot music venue. And then the upstairs was just this abandoned area, but the upstairs became loft apartments. And then the downstairs was a library. So It is kind of weird. You never know with buildings.
Yeah, and especially like in smaller towns. I used to live in a smaller town, and their library, it still is, as far as I know, it was right in the middle of downtown in between a bunch of other stores along the main street there. It didn't have its own building. It was a storefront kind of a thing right in between other regular stores. And they've expanded since I used to live there. But actually it's funny because the place that they expanded into was I knew the owners or the renters, I guess, but the owners of this video game. It was sort of like a video game rental and or a place to play video games. And so I got to know the owner for a while, and I'd visit him sometimes. And that place, I heard footsteps in there one day when I was alone waiting for him. We were gonna head out, and there was other things reported there. And then that area eventually was purchased and added onto the library. So I still wonder to this day if anything happens there, because I know I felt like there was. I am somewhat sensitive to all these things, and I felt like there was some energy or someone there. So yeah, buildings can be many things. Go from hospitals to apartments, or from just any number of things. You can repurpose a building for a lot of different ways to do a lot of different things. And so yeah, it makes me wonder about that. How many things happen that people think are just completely unexplainable, but they have connections to what the buildings were before. So yeah, I don't know. That's amazing though, Jen.
Yeah, up in that apartment. So I had like 2 little dogs, and I remember one night I was sleeping, and this was like a tiny little studio apartment, basically like a kitchenette and a bathroom, and then like the main living area. And like there's the bed was like in a kind of like just a partitioned alcove sort of area,
Mm-hmm.
And the window that was directly across from the bed, I woke up because my dog was barking out the window. And I got up and I looked, and like the street was empty. It was like, I don't know what time it was, but it was like really late, early morning hours. There was nobody out. It was like during the weekday, and there was like no traffic. like hardly any. There was nobody there. But what was weird about the way that the dog was barking is it was looking directly straight out the window, like direct. And this was up on the second floor. My apartment
Ah,
was, but he was barking just right in front of him. But there was literally nothing there at all. And I just thought, and he went on. I had to get on to him. I was like, "Get out of the window!" But it was so strange because I was looking right where he was looking, and you just kind of got this sense because he was so insistent there was something there that he was barking at. But I was like, there's just nothing there. But there had to be something there because he didn't usually do that. But like I say, they would bark at the door. You would hear somebody come up the stairs, but then there would be nobody at the door. You'd open it expecting someone to be, or like, that sort of thing. Because the door locked on the downstairs, and the key, I had the safe upstairs in my apartment in the office area too, for like the bookings and things like that. But so the only people who had keys to it were like the owners, a couple of the managers, and myself. And so like there was, so it was really strange with that, but the footsteps coming up the stairs. And then in the other part of the building in the upstairs, we used to, of course you can imagine. So we would go over there and just walk through the whole thing. And it was almost like a ghost tour in itself. I mean, it was so abandoned. And then like the mirrors in the dressing rooms, it was just so strange. Probably nothing had been there since the 70s or something, but the building itself was from the early 1900s. So really crazy. And it was on the square of this city I lived in. So it was like there was a lot of traffic in the square area around this main park in the center that had like a big fountain, and people would congregate down there. So there's quite a bit of activity. It was just so strange. And like I say, with the dog barking at the window, it was, I don't know. There was nothing across the street at the other building. It was complete silence out there. But the fact that they made that into a library. So as far as like buildings having these complex pests, and then too, I mean, being basically like a beacon for activity, because of all the things that happen in those places. So, and now some places, I think also too that spirits just they could be gravitating around certain people in those environments, and it could be so quiet that maybe somebody who's sensitive to it, like yourself or like a child, that they may pick up on it or perceive of it because it's so quiet and the stillness of it, and the people are preoccupied and in a certain state of mind. Maybe that's
right.
something to do with it. Yep.
Yeah, I think so. I've heard accounts from people and read accounts of people that have big families in their homes, and then years pass and several people move out to where it's only one or two people left in the house that live there, and they realize they're hearing sounds, and they're sounds that they heard years earlier when the house was full, but now they're hearing them when the house is not full, when it's empty, and it makes them wonder, what were they hearing, paranormal things, unexplainable things way back when, and not even realizing it because they just figured it's the other people in the house. I think that's always a factor as well, when it comes to that. So now some libraries, apparently there have been enough sightings in certain libraries where some will even set up a webcam where people can watch a video of the inside of the library when it's closed, and then supposedly pick up on things, catch things in the video. There's this library here. It's the Willard Public Library, and this is in, let me check on this again, Evansville, Indiana. And they have a gray lady. And the article here says that some people have speculated that it is the daughter of Willard Carpenter, who founded the library. You see her first name here, Louise. But they don't know for sure, obviously. And but she's apparently appeared to people in windows when people are looking at the building from the outside. And of course, several librarians have seen her as well. So people also have claimed to feel a touch on their hair or earrings when they're in the library. So it says, the article says here that they do offer a ghost tour every October. And and they have a link to a live. I don't know if it's working. I didn't check on that earlier, but a live webcam feed you can watch to possibly see whatever is there. So that to me is wild that they're a public library, which you don't always hear. So many places do not like to even mention that there might be anything weird going on there because of all the stigma. But some places go the other route, and whatever is or isn't going on there, they sort of embrace the possibility of it and set up these kinds of cameras. So that's always amazing to me as well to see places. It can go overboard, I think, but in general, I am glad to see places that sort of at least say, "Hey, there's something going on here that we can't easily figure it out." And but yeah, so I don't know. That'd be a neat thing to look into more as some live feeds in places. Although you never know if you're ever going to actually see anything or not.
Yeah, you never know. Like with the you're talking about books falling off of the shelves and things like that. That you think that maybe it could be ghosts trying to pick an object up. I don't know. A spirit's trying to pick up an object and it knocks it off or something. Well, like I had a picture of my grandfather on the top of my wardrobe. I had this old kind of cabinet used for storing clothes and things like that. And I had a picture of him up there. And one day that picture fell off of there. And I mean, it could have fallen off for any number of reasons. But then the next day, I found out that he had passed away. So there was and then pictures of him at my aunt's house. They also this was way after the fact that he had passed away. But pictures of him on her hall would fall off the wall sometimes. So it's as if trying to get attention that way. And then too, I just wanted to mention this whole haunted library thing. It reminds me of Ghostbusters. Do you remember that scene where the very opening scene? Yeah, that's what I immediately think of. And then just the stillness of the library or any building that has archives like that. There's sort of a feeling as if, when everyone's out of there and it's completely abandoned and empty and all that information is there in the rows of books. You can imagine being there in the evening or something and how it would feel, to be there by yourself or just a few people. There's just kind of a feeling in places like that, just that contain information or that have any type of archived, like museums and things like that. They have a feeling about them. And then the haunted object is like a Horcrux, a book as being like that. And the books, a lot of times these libraries are donated. There could be something like that.
Yeah, definitely. That's sort of, I think we'll get more into that in the second episode here because we are down to less than a minute or so of time. But yeah, that's the other thing I wanted to talk about here tonight for sure as we're recording. And yeah, it's I do wonder about that. Just anyone who is likes to read and or just likes to take in knowledge, I can see them wanting to spend a lot of time in the library after the fact. So we will continue this discussion in the next episode here. And but yeah, if you have just one last thought, real quick, Jen, you're welcome to go on with that.
Well, I mean, just happy birthday. I think this is a great birthday show topic. And then I don't know. I look forward to hearing about what articles you have in the next episode and what else you found about haunted libraries. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you. And thank you all for being here. And we will talk to you next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.